Dane. Welcome back to the Super Thursday edition, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm excited, ready to roll for another one. I mean, we're seem to be batting 1,000 no matter what we do with all the guests we've got. And this one's definitely going to be right up there with the rest of them. So I'm
This
excited.
week is yeah, this week's been crazy. We had our buddy Jake, man, the local marathoner, and then our buddy
Yeah,
Jerome from Switchfoot. And
right.
then tonight, this guy, I gotta build up. Not that he needs it, his reputation speaks for itself. Talk about an amazing lyricist, amazing human, what a testimony, great guitarist, and now he's like passing on this awesome icon of what he is to like the next generation and just keeps
Yeah,
making music at the top of his game. From the early days when I started listening to them, me and my buddies playing music back with Matthew 25 to even now this feasting on vultures thing, man. Like their whole
yeah,
catalog of music, I fanboy out when I say it. 25 plus years of just
yeah,
amazing epic music. I told you, Dane, all the good stuff started. It was I am I right in the 90s? At least started
yeah.
in the 90s, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So this guy,
And
like I
and
said,
and, and to add on to the top of all that great stuff, and an author as well. Now we
yeah.
can add to the list.
So much stuff to get
Right.
into, man. So before I get fanboyed out, I'm gonna get right down to it and bring on the man himself, Joseph Rojas. Joseph, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time.
It's an honor, dude. Love the hair, by the way. Got to say, really cool. Loving the blue. So dig it,
Oh,
man.
thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
So we've got over the years, man, Dane and I've got some questions we're going to bounce past you. So I'm going to take the lead. Like I said, legitimately from day one, listening to you from the Matthew 25 days, knowing your story, your testimony, what a great role model that you have turned into. I'm curious, man, even before the early days of SDS, maybe some demos you did or like stuff before that. When did you get the bug to start playing before all this happened, guitar?
Well, I started playing guitar when I was probably about 12 years old. My mom, all she could afford was a Sears and Roebuck guitar. She got it out of the catalog because my mom worked at Sears, so she got a 20% discount. So she got me this guitar. It was probably like $80, but it was a copy of a BC Rich, which was the guitar that Kerry King from Slayer played, and I was into that at the time, and so it was a kind of a knockoff,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
even a good one, but it was a knockoff, and so it was what she could afford, and she got that for me, and she couldn't afford lessons, and she bought me a $10 or $15 blown little amplifier from a pawn shop, and I that's how I started, was learning, like, I wasn't good enough to learn the Slayer songs, so I learned some couple of the easier Metallica kind of songs, and that was what I
The
how I
beginning,
learned,
yeah.
was right here, and yeah, learning it like that, man. And
That's
I
cool, man.
Wow.
I got better over the years, but that was where it all started.
I love it. So thinking about Dane before you take two, man, I ask this
Yeah.
question to every guitarist I know. Great lyricist, great vocalist. Your voice is one of a kind. But you
Yeah.
know how like every guitarist has that moment where it's like, okay, we got saved up a little money, got our first baby, your real guitar, right? Not no disrespect to the early one, but I remember my dad got me this Purple Roadstar as I have it as my favorite growing up. When you got like your first baby guitar, what was your guitar, man? Like you bought through money, like your baby. What kind of guitar was it? I'm curious. You
Hmm.
know.
Well, wow.
You know what I mean? If you can remember,
Um, I don't know. I've bought several guitars after that one. I got a couple of other cheaper guitars and different things like that. But um, I would say the guitar that I loved the most, that was actually an expensive one, and it was one that I wanted. It was made by a company called Godin, but
Yep,
it's
yep.
it's uh it's spelled God in, like Godin, and I wanted it because I play acoustic and I play electric, and I love
Hmm.
both the same. And this Godin guitar, which is made in Canada, assembled in the United States, it has both. It has an amazing acoustic sound,
Love it.
and it has an amazing electric guitar sound. So you can play hard
Hmm.
rock on it, or you can run out of the you know, the acoustic pickups it has in there. And so I wanted that guitar bad, and they're normally a couple grand, and I was able to find one at Guitar Center on the used, like it was hanging on the used rack, and I got it for like $800, and I was so proud of that guitar, because that's the guitar I wanted. And you know, I've had guitars over the years, but that's the one I really wanted, and I
Love
got
it.
it. And I was already playing in Seventh Day Slumber, believe it or not, but we were just we were broke, you know, we were
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
yeah, I wasn't even
Yeah.
starting out. And my wife and I lived in a, you know, a little small apartment that was like $400 a month, and we got
Huh.
free cable, you know. And so I bought that guitar, and I was like, man, it'd be amazing if one day I had an endorsement deal with this company, like, but I loved him so much that I bought one.
Let's
And
go.
so shoot, man, not too long after that we got signed, and to Tooth and Nail, and I played it in the Caroline video,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I let Godin know before that Caroline video. I let him know that I was gonna be doing a music video, and that I wanted to try to have a guitar for that music video. And so they sent it. Now it got there late, but I played mine, and they sent me a guitar, and then they signed me. And so
Let's
for
go.
all these years, I've had like 20 Godins
Huh.
over the years,
That's cool, man.
and
That's cool.
I
Well,
haven't bought one since the day that I bought the very first one. And you know, so that's pretty crazy. Like, they would send them to me, a couple of them every year, or you know, a new one every year, or
yeah.
something like that. And I it's crazy, man. Like, to
It's been
have
your
the
go-to ever
because,
since, huh? Yeah.
huh?
It's been your go-to ever since, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what's crazy too is another thing about that story, real fast, is that um I've been endorsed by other guitar companies. Like, I've been endorsed by Gibson, which I love Gibson guitars, but
Mhm.
I've been endorsed by SJC and a bunch of other companies, which I like all those guitars, but I just always came back to Godin.
Yeah.
Godin was my guitar and they are a company that stuck with me over the years. And so there's a lot of guitar players that have a guitar endorsement in our industry, like
Mm.
Right.
signed band, where you can promote a guitar. They're just not going to hand out endorsement deals, but if you're going to be in the public eye and you're going to promote it and help them to get sales, they'll do it.
Mm.
But a lot of bands will only play guitars that you know, like they really love Gibson, but since they can't get a Gibson deal, they got a deal with this other company, then that's the guitar they play. And
Yeah.
but at home they have a Gibson. And
Right.
for me, you know, but live they play a different guitar than their baby at home. My baby at home is a 35th anniversary edition Godin. And so that's the guitar I get to play live.
I
And
love it.
so to be able to play the guitar that you actually is the one you love is
That's cool.
crazy.
That's cool, man. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the
Wow.
Caroline one because I know Dane. I've watched that video. I show my kids it because it's now cool, man. Because again, you guys are as you keep going, like now my kids are.
Yeah.
I'm showing them, and it's like
Yeah.
I didn't put that together. That's cool. Dane helped me out, man. Because you know, a fanboy, Dane. Go ahead, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, from the time you got that first guitar, you know, when you started playing with the band, what are some of the, you know, some of the gigs that you remember back when you started and all the way up to now? Is there maybe one or two events or gigs that stick out in the forefront of your mind that you could kind of tell us about?
That's good.
You know, we've done so many concerts. We play about 180 to 200 concerts a year.
Hmm.
And so there's so many unique moments in, you know, in the 25 years we've been doing it. But you know, I've got a collective kind of folder in my brain of about 20 or 30 moments that have like shaped the band, you
Yeah.
know, to where they made me want to be better, stronger, um, most importantly, closer to God.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, and one of them was I wrote a song years ago called Chris's Letter, and that song is I can't even remember exactly what album. I think it was on the Shattered Life album. But anyway, that song Chris's Letter I wrote um after a real guy who we were on tour with a band that we brought out. They were called Big Dismal.
Yeah.
And
Eric's a great dude. I know
Big,
Eric. He's a good dude. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And we were doing a show with Big Dismal. We were playing some churches, and then we were playing clubs as well. Like it was both general market and Christian. And so, but this was at a club, and we uh we got there. I was tired as all get out because we didn't have a driver that week for whatever reason, so I was driving the bus, and I was just so tired. I wasn't going to cancel a show because we didn't have a driver, and I don't know if he was out sick or what was going on, but I ended up driving like, I don't know, 10 hours that night, and I was beat, dude. We showed up to the venue, and we set up, and we got a sound check, and I said, look, guys, I'm tired. I'm gonna go take a nap, and then I'll be ready for the show tonight. And my wife is our tour manager, my wife Lori, and she was also doing the merch. And she said, "I got your back. Just go get some sleep." Well, I got back to the bus, and I ended up having to take a phone call with our label, and I didn't end up sleeping at all.
Oh,
And then next thing I know, Big Dismal's playing, and I'm like, we're right after them. So like, oh, dang. And so then it's like my wife's like, "Hey, it's time." And so she asked me if I got any sleep. I said no, but I was like, maybe I can get done playing. We can get out of here kind of early, and then I can drive for a couple of hours, and then pull over at a truck stop, and I'll just sleep for a few hours, and then we'll get to the next place. And and so that was the plan. And and so I got on stage, and we had a good show.
Yeah.
I was tired, but I gave it all I had. There was this young man helping my wife with the merch, and he was just like a bar back who was also helping with the merch. And he was a cool guy. But anyway, so I felt like, man, you know what? I'm not trying to be overly preachy, but I feel like God was putting it on my heart to share my story in the middle of this bar, and to also to give an altar call. So, and that's not something I always do in a bar, like, but I always do it in a church. But in a
Yeah.
bar, I want to be invited back, and I want to use discretion because we're always available for people to come talk to us afterwards. And I let them know that. I always share my story, but I don't always give an altar call. And so, I shared my story about how I was a drug addict, and how I'd been locked up in and out of jails and institutions, and how I thought about suicide every day, and finally I made it a point to try to take my own life. And my mom found me,
Yes, sir.
and called the paramedics, and they saved my life. God used those paramedics to save my life in the back of an ambulance. And woke up in the intensive care unit, and I shared about that, and I shared about how God restored me and gave me a new outlook on life,
Yeah.
and gave me a new life.
Yeah.
And then I get to meet my wife, and now I'm a father, and I'm, shared all that. Then I said, if there's anybody here tonight, I don't care if you're drinking, if you got a beer in your hand, because I want you to know that you are loved
Yeah.
tonight. Not just loved by us, but loved by God, man. He loves
Right.
you, dude.
Yeah.
So I'm not being preachy at you. I'm just sharing my own story with you, man, letting you know that there's hope for you. Even if you don't believe in this God, he believes in you, and he
Mhm.
loves you. And anyway, I gave an altar call, man, and people came to the altar, and that kid who was helping my wife, he was about probably 20 some years old or early 20s. He came to the altar and he gave his heart to the Lord. And
Hmm.
afterwards, I walked to the table and I was signing autographs and I was talking to him too. And I was like, "Hey man, I'm proud of you, dude." And I was super tired. I mean, I could barely stand up at that point. I was just tired, but I wanted to make sure I gave time for everybody. And
Yeah.
anyway, I was finished signing everything, and I was walking back to the bus or getting ready to walk back. I told my wife, I'm gonna go lay down while y'all are packing up. And, you know, we have a good group of guys that were gonna help us load up. I said I'm gonna go at least try to get an hour before I get behind the
Yeah.
wheel. And anyway, as I was walking back to the bus, the guy ran up, tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Hey man, I know I got to help your wife. So I don't want to leave her by herself when she's selling merch. But I wanted to tell you before you drive off tonight, could I please just get a few minutes of your time?" And he said, "I wanted to share something with you." And I was like, "Yeah, man, I got you, dude." And I went back to the bus and I fell asleep for a few minutes. It wasn't long, obviously. The guys got packed up pretty quick. And I woke up, I was still like so dead tired. And I remembered that kid. And I was like, dang. And I'm ashamed to admit this part, but I'm gonna tell you because I've told the story before. But I was like, man, I know I should go talk to him, but I'm so tired. And I walked up and I started the bus. And the bus takes time to air up.
Mhm.
And so I was sitting there and the bus was airing up and I was feeling kind of guilty and not just kind of guilty. I was feeling like a piece of junk, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, and I was like, man, uh, I was
Yeah.
wrestling,
Warm with
man.
yourself.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like I know I need to get out of here and go talk to this kid. And then I see him walking up, and he looked kind of like I could see him through the side mirror. I don't know how to explain it, but it looked like almost like disappointed and like, "Are you leaving me?" kind of look.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Dude, I got up out of the seat and I ran out quick and tried to play it off.
Yeah.
And you know, I lied to him. I said, "Hey man, sorry dude, I wanted to get the bus going before I came out and talked to you." And you know, I'm like I said, I'm ashamed to admit this. It's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Facts. Yeah.
and so I hated that I had lied to the kid, but I did. I didn't want to let him know that
Mhm.
I was wrestling with my whether I should come out and talk to him,
Yeah.
especially after he come to the altar. I knew he was hurting. And anyway, to to end the story, here's the deal. Um, the kid told me that he was going to commit suicide that night.
Oh my.
He had
Oh
already made
wow.
up his mind. He made up his mind that
Wow.
that was the night.
Wow.
His mom and dad divorced, and
Wow.
he said, I don't, I didn't know what to do. My dad was leaving tonight to go stay at his girlfriend's house,
Mhm.
and
Wow.
so he was still at the house at the time. And he said, and so I was gonna go do my last shift or whatever, man, and wait till he was gone.
Wow.
I'd already written
Wow.
a suicide letter, and I was gonna come home and end it all.
Oh my.
And he
Wow.
said, but tonight, what you said changed my life.
Wow.
And he said, I'm, he's like, I don't know how to thank you. And he said, and that's just what I wanted to tell you tonight.
Oh
And
my.
I didn't want to say it in front of all those people. And I just told him, hey, I love you, dude. Like, I love you, man. And God
Man.
loves you. And he
Yeah.
knows your pain. And he knows your hurt. And he knows your struggle. And his arms are open wide for you. You haven't done
Wow.
too much to be out of, you can't be out of the reach of God.
Right.
And
Right.
I said, I'm sorry that your dad hurt you like that. And I'm sorry that your mom and your dad aren't together. And I
Right.
wish that I could make it better for you. I can't. I said, but I tell you, I know that God can heal your broken heart. and restore you.
Right.
And if your mom and dad never get back together again, and maybe they won't, I said, God will give you the strength to make it through it. And I said, so I just want you to know how much that you're loved tonight. And man, I hugged the kid, he cried. And we kept in touch over the year. Like he's alive. You know what
That's
I mean?
good.
I'll have to talk to him in several years, I'll be honest. But that was lots of years ago. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Wow.
he man, he was over. I talked to him for a couple years. And so, you know, he's I don't know where he's at now, I'll be honest.
Right.
But I can tell you this, for a couple of years, man,
What a story,
his
man. Wow.
life
That's
changed, man.
what a story about. Like, think about this, man. Like, and I told Dan, I said, the reason why we love you, dude, because you're so genuine, you're so real.
Yeah.
Like, you don't judge anybody for, like, you talk about every one of your songs. And I knew the story about how your testimony. I've heard that, and it's encouraged me so much, man. Like, how much you love others because of how
Yeah.
much love you're given, man. And you put it in your music, like you pour it into your music. The influence you have on this generation of pop, let's get it real. You guys get down. When I think about Death by Administration, you can rock, dude. Like you can straight rock.
Yeah.
And then you've got like your days of like love and worship. And then you've got some of the more ballads, again, like My Struggle and Candy. You know how to play music. And then when you take that love that you have for people, that is a God-given love that you have, no wonder you're 25 years and still at the top of your game. People respect and love you for being you and how much you love others. So the influence you've left on me, of course, Dane and my family and those around me, it's vast. Like your influence is big. I'm curious though, man. Like I know you can't maybe narrow it down to like maybe one genre, one or two people, but there's got to be maybe it's lyricists, maybe it gets harsh or two, maybe a couple of mentors, somebody that left a mark on you. You know what I mean? Like how you're giving back to the world now. Is there maybe one or two mentors, musicians, singers, guitarists? It could be not even that has left a mark on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, I mean, there's several who I've admired through the years. And probably the two that I really I gotta say, Mark Hall from Casting Crowns.
Yep.
I look up to that guy. I respect him. His son, John Michael, was at our concert just recently, and his son is the bass player for Casting Crowns. And anyway, man, over the years, I've just seen him and I've watched him, and that man is a man of God, and he's been in one of the biggest bands in our industry, in the Christian music industry, one of the biggest bands in the world, you know, along with Mercy Me and you know, several others. But Casting Crowns is one of the bands you talk about that they sell out, you know, big, you know, venues, and that guy's always kept his head on straight, and he's always kept God at the forefront, and he's always been nice to me every time I've seen him. Every time I've seen it, man, I tell you what, only time I've ever really been starstruck was we were playing a festival, and our bus had just pulled in, and we were behind main stage. I think it was Life Fest or one of the festivals. And dude, then all the buses were pulling in. Then this really nice bus pulled in beside us, and ours was a little older. And I was like, man, wonder whose bus that was, you know? And so I was walking to catering, and then I heard my name, and I looked back, and it was Mark Hall, and he had his son who's now a grown man, but his son was little at the time. He was holding his daddy's hand, and he said, Joseph. I said, yeah, man. He said, Mark from Casting Crowns. I was like,
That's cool.
I know who you are, dude. Like, their bus parked next to us. You know, and I was like, man, this bus is parked next to us, and he knows my name. This is crazy, you know.
That's cool.
He's like, hey man, I just wanted to tell you, dude, my son and I, we love Seventh Day Slumber. And he's like,
That's cool.
I heard you did mixed martial arts, right? And I said, yeah, I'm a Muay Thai fighter and a jiu-jitsu fighter, and I fight in the cage a little bit and whatever. And he's like, yeah, I know, I know, man. And he's like, hey, listen, me and my son, dude, he's in karate, and we listen to, we jam you guys out in the truck, you know, or whatever it was, cars, truck. And he's like, we
Mhm.
listen to you. I just want you to know, man, I love your music. And I was like, dang, dude, I love
Starstruck.
casting crowns.
Yeah,
I
man.
love casting. I'm a metalhead. I like to rock, but I love casting crowns.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and so I was like, dang,
yeah. What
that's
a cool.
crazy.
Yeah,
Found
man.
out later, yeah, I found out later that uh, when I was talking to his son, that him and his dad would play this thing called Guitar Praise, and it was a video game that came.
Yeah,
It was like a
yeah.
Christian version of like what
Guitar Hero.
here
Yeah, yeah.
Guitar Hero, and our song Finally Awake on there, and they used to play that and listen to it. And
That's cool. Yeah.
anyway,
That's cool,
so
man.
yeah, I looked up to him a lot. I've loved John Cooper.
Yeah.
John Cooper brought us on our first major tour after we were on tour with Acquire the Fire for 2 years.
Mhm.
And we met Skillet on the Acquire the Fire tour, and it was us and Skillet and Switchfoot, I think, and then maybe like a band called Delirious.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they would switch them all out, but we stayed on the tour for the for 2 years, you know. And
Hmm.
anyway, Skillet after the tour invited us out to be on their tour. But we've toured with Skillet a couple of times, and so I've always seen John. Now I'm friends with John. I love John, but I've always seen him behind the scenes. Him and Corey both, um, just the most amazing people.
Yeah, yeah.
So I gotta say, I really, really look up to John and Corey both. They're great parents. They're great people. They rock. And Skillet is a band that, while a lot of people, you know, might say that Skillet doesn't rock as hard as they used to, or every
Mhm.
band gets
Yeah.
things said like that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I've always, I mean, obviously Skillet has millions and millions of fans, so
Yeah, yeah.
somebody's
Doing something
listening
right.
to 'em.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I love Skillet. So, but no, I don't just love Skillet's music. I love the people.
Yeah.
It's always been great. They're all great people. So I would say those two. Sonny from POD, another
Right.
top notch.
Yeah.
I mean, top notch guy. I love that guy so much, man. I mean, there's several out there. Kevin from Disciple. I love Kevin. My brother
Mhm.
got saved at a Disciple concert,
Yes, sir.
which is crazy because my brother and I didn't have a relationship growing up. You know, we had a tough childhood, real tough childhood, and we used to fist fight,
Oh man.
and so we had no like we used to make each other like bleed, like for
Oh
real fist
wow.
fight.
Man.
No wonder you're a multi-fighter.
He's my older,
You
yeah,
know?
he's my older brother, but we used to bang it out, man. And dude, my wife is the one that kind of started. He wasn't even at my wedding, but my wife is the one that kind of started the mending process between me and my brother. And my brother came and he visited me in Dallas, where my wife and I lived. And dude, it started that process of us being um, kind of being friends,
Yeah.
and then we got close, and like I said, I owed it all to my wife. It was my brother and her started talking, and she made it
That's
happen.
cool.
But my brother eventually
Wow.
came on the road with us as our bus driver. He wasn't a
nice.
Christian, but he came on the road. He believed that there's a God, but he wasn't a Christian. And but we were at another festival, and Kevin was Disciple was playing, and my brother was like, "I'm gonna go check out this band." And I was like, "Yeah, I've known Kevin for a long time, or whatever." And my brother went to go check him out, and then Kevin started sharing and giving the gospel message.
Mhm.
My brother, right there under that tent, dropped to his knees in the dirt, and he gave his life to
Hmm.
Jesus as Kevin gave that message. So I've always respected Kevin. I love the guys,
Wow.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
they're good friends of ours. We've toured with them so many times, and
That's crazy,
yeah,
man. The
Wow.
world, the circle, because we know, like I said, we're friends with Marcos. Marcos has been good to us, and of course
Yeah.
Joey from Disciple, man. A couple of our friends. Joey, remember Dane, the story that Joey told us about the man? It's very Joey. I don't know if he's told you the story, Joe. Before you take question 4, Dane, Joey reminded us of a similar story. I think they had a fan come to the show and they were listening to Not Invisible. I think it's Invisible, and the guy's like, "Hey, man, here's a bullet I was going to use to end my life. I want you to have it as a reminder that
Yeah.
you helped me. I listened to your song and
Yeah.
I turned my life around and got my life in right with God, and it's because of a song."
Yeah.
So, like what you did with Chris's song, man, music is so powerful. So it's just
Yeah.
you're taking a
Absolutely.
message, a genuine message, and you're giving back to people, man. So, man, Dan, go
Yeah.
ahead, dude, because I'll get lost. Dan, go ahead, man. I'm getting the weeds on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of beside myself listening to these stories, thinking, man, there's so much you've done to help people. I mean, indirectly and directly. I mean, you don't know usually what stories, are going to resonate with you, but I enjoy them all because, like I've always been told, if you do something great, people are going to gravitate to you and you're going to touch a lot of lives. Your intent is to do something great, but you touch so many lives with what you do lyrically and musically and just being the kind of person you are, a follower of God and a disciple of Christ, to be a light to somebody. You never know when it's going to shine. I mean, in